Hello everyone, Lagwyn here, and welcome to another episode of CoT Lorebytes, where we bring you bite-sized Guild Wars and Guild Wars 2 lore in under 5 minutes. Since later today the Dragon Bash Festival will be released, I thought it would be a good idea to talk about the Lion's Arch Captains Council, as they're in part throwing this event. So, just a heads up, we don't know a ton about the Captains Council outside of Captain Magnus the Bloody-Handed, but here goes. So the Captain's Council's main purpose is it's one of the two ruling bodies of Lion's Arch, the other one being the Commodore, in this case Commodore Lawson Mariner. We'll have more on him in a future Lorebyte episode. But the main purpose of the Captain's Council in this respect is to be a sort of form of checks and balances for the Commodore, so that he doesn't have complete control over all the decisions made in Lion's Arch. All the current captains are comprised of all privateers, and the footage you're going to see in the background at this time is taken at the Crow's Nest Tavern in Lion's Arch, where they seem to reside. So the first captain you're going to run into on your way into the Crow's Nest Tavern is Captain Bonnie Ann Reed. She doesn't offer much information, but she does let us know a little bit about how the council operates when she says, "The Captain's Council is not in session. Submit your concerns and we'll look into them at the next meeting." So now you walk into the Crow's Nest Tavern, and you'll see someone you may remember from a previous Lorebyte episode, Captain Lagwyn. We know he's part of a noble Canton family, and his family is responsible for the banking system we currently have. And he also fills us in that he's the financial advisor for the council. Not too far from him is Captain Theo Ashford. Again, we can tell from the way he speaks that he's definitely a pirate, but he says he's formerly of the Ascalon Ashfords, so I think maybe this is a reference to Ashford Village, or maybe Ashford Abbey from Pre-Searing Ascalon. And he says, "We bring money, prestige, and charisma everywhere we go, and now I'm here." So I guess apparently he's bringing charisma and money to Lion's Arch. There's a golem in there known as Captain Smash. It doesn't really provide any useful information, but he is a golem and called captain, so I thought it was worth mentioning. Next up, the only char in the Captain's Council, Captain Farth Scarclaw. And he says, "I came here to kill raiders and drink rum. We're almost out of raiders. Good thing there's plenty of rum." But what's interesting is this is one of the few instances where your race plays a role in this. If you're a char, he says we get a lot of gladium here, so even if you don't have a warband, there's plenty of work and plenty of fighting. Next up, one of the Toothsers, there is Captain Should, which is interesting because her name doesn't fit typical Asura naming convention. But she actually owns the majority of the Asura gates in Lion's Arch, which is pretty interesting because I didn't know anyone owned Asura gates. I thought they were just kind of mutual joint property, but interesting. Perhaps she owns them, and that's her trying to make up for the fact that she was given a male-sounding name as a female Asura. The other Asura is a male Asura named Captain Tok, and he talks about how there's lots of business, and the more you know about other people's business, the more business you get, and then he makes a comment about the consortium, or you make a comment about the consortium, and he says that they're just another fly-by-night syndicate looking to earn on the sly. If you know anything about what's going on in South Sun Cove, seems like he knows what he's talking about. Next up, Captain Peter the Lost, one of the more interesting captains in my mind, because he actually has decent dialogue. And he talks about histories of Lion's Arch and mentions that he once owned a magic ship called the Capricorn, which barely needed a crew because it sailed itself. But he mentions that it was eventually stolen by the Sea Witch Covington, who's also known as the Hydra Queen of Bloodtide Coast, and she took the ship from him but never learned how to weigh anchor, so it constantly sails on and on forever and never stops. This also may be a reference to the PvP map called Raid on the Capricorn, so maybe we'll see more information on that, because Capricorn is a PvP map which takes place in the Mist, which can take place in any place in time or space. So I was going to talk about Captain Magnus the Bloody-Handed, but we don't seem to have enough time to get to that today, so for this episode of CoT Lorebytes, where we bring you interesting Guild Wars lore in under 5 minutes, I'm Lagwyn, and we'll see you next time.